Judge insults Pam Bondi in court. Minutes later, Pam Bondi gets him arrested. It was a brisk spring morning in Washington, D.C., the kind where the city seems to hum with anticipation. Inside the U.S. District Court, however, that hum had transformed into a quiet tension. Reporters huddled near the back, flipping through legal pads and readying their recorders. Lawyers whispered to clients. Cameras flashed as Attorney General Pam Bondi entered the courtroom, her heels echoing with each step. She wasn't just here to observe. She had decided to personally prosecute a massive corruption case that had captured national attention. The case involved North Star Technologies, a defense contracting giant accused of laundering government funds through a complex international web of shell companies and false invoices. The stakes were sky-high. Billions of taxpayer dollars were missing, reputations were on the line, and Bondi had made it clear she would stop at nothing to ensure accountability. Presiding over the trial was Judge Horace Whittaker, a name well known in legal circles. With over 3 decades on the federal bench, he carried an air of authority that some mistook for wisdom and others saw as arrogance. Rumors had long circulated that Whittaker had become too comfortable, too connected to the wrong people, but none had dared to confront him. From the moment Bondi stepped up to deliver her opening remarks, the air shifted. Her delivery was confident, measured, yet passionate, outlining the breadth of the evidence, the lies told to investors, and the calculated betrayal of public trust. But just minutes into her statement, the judge interrupted her with a smirk. "Madam Attorney General," Judge Whittaker interjected, leaning forward with folded hands, "let's remember this is a court of law, not a campaign podium. Perhaps you'd prefer to leave the real work to those who practice law more than they talk about it on television." The courtroom went dead silent. A few chuckles erupted from the defense table. Bondi paused, steadying herself. She didn't take the bait. With perfect composure, she responded, "With all due respect, Your Honor, my presence here is not for show. It is my duty, as the nation's chief law enforcement officer, to represent the interests of the American people and to ensure that justice is served without bias or insult." Her words were firm, but behind her calm exterior, the gears were turning. Something felt off. The judge's tone wasn't just disrespectful, it felt like a power play. A warning, possibly even a cover. During a brief recess, one of Bondi's aides, Jordan Vega, quietly handed her a note. It read, "Unverified tip. Whittaker met privately with Manford's attorneys last week. No log, no clerk present. That was highly irregular and potentially criminal." Back at DOJ headquarters that evening, Bondi convened an emergency strategy meeting. She didn't just want to win the trial, she wanted to understand what kind of game was being played beneath the surface. She instructed her Office of Professional Responsibility to launch a quiet, expedited inquiry into Judge Whittaker's recent rulings, meetings, communications, and financials. Within hours, red flags emerged. Financial records, hidden in layers of LLCs and anonymous trust accounts, linked the judge to a consulting group with ties to Derek Manford, the very executive on trial. Digital forensics revealed encrypted messages between Whittaker and one of Manford's legal advisors. Even more alarming, a sealed document from an earlier discovery request appeared to have been leaked to the defense before it had been formally entered into the court record. The implications were staggering. Not only had the judge insulted the Attorney General in open court, but he had also compromised the integrity of one of the most important federal trials of the decade. The next morning, Bondi returned to the courthouse as if nothing had changed. She wore the same unflinching expression, carrying a slim leather folder that, unbeknownst to most, contained a full report of Whittaker's misconduct. 2 plainclothes federal agents sat silently in the gallery. Everything was timed to the minute. The courtroom filled quickly. Reporters were on edge, sensing that something unusual was about to happen. When the judge took his seat and began his usual procedural instructions, Bondi rose. "Your Honor," she said calmly, voice unwavering, "before we proceed with today's testimonies, I have a matter of utmost urgency regarding judicial ethics and the integrity of this court." Whittaker raised a brow, attempting to maintain control. "Madam Attorney General, "You may speak, briefly." At that exact moment, the double doors at the back of the courtroom opened, and 2 U.S. Marshals entered. One stepped forward with a document in hand. "Judge Horace Whittaker," he said, loud enough for the entire room to hear, "you are hereby placed under arrest on charges of obstruction of justice, conspiracy to commit bribery, and judicial misconduct." A stunned silence fell. The judge stood up, clearly flustered. You can't be serious. This is outrageous. I am a sitting federal judge." Pam Bondi slowly approached the bench. "Yes," she said quietly but firmly, "and your position should have held you to the highest standard of integrity. Instead, you've betrayed the law you swore to uphold. This courtroom does not belong to you. It belongs to the people, and they deserve better." The marshals read the rest of the warrant. Flashbulbs exploded from reporters' cameras. Whittaker, still shouting indignantly, was escorted out in handcuffs. Bondi turned and calmly addressed the court. "The trial of Derek Manford will continue under a new judge. Justice is not on pause, and neither is this investigation." The fallout was immediate and far-reaching. Judge Whittaker's arrest made headlines across every major network. Legal analysts debated the implications for months. Bondi's bold move was both praised and criticized, some calling it reckless, others calling it righteous. Behind the scenes, dozens of judicial decisions made by Whittaker were now under review. His conviction months later on all counts, including accepting bribes and leaking court documents, confirmed what many had feared. Corruption had reached the bench, and no one had dared call it out until now. The case against Derek Manford proceeded swiftly, and without Whittaker's interference, the evidence was overwhelming. Manford was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to 27 years in federal prison. In an interview following the conclusion of the case, Pam Bondi was asked if she ever hesitated to take down a federal judge. She responded, "Justice is not supposed to be comfortable. If we only pursue what's easy, we stop pursuing what's right." Her actions sparked a nationwide review of judicial ethics. New oversight legislation was proposed and passed within a year, and Bondi's name became synonymous with bold, principled leadership. Though many referred to that explosive moment in court as the day justice took the bench back, Pam Bondi always referred to it with a shrug and a half-smile as just another Tuesday in the fight for what's right.